I recently spent 65 hours 100%ing Elden Ring Nightreign. Doing so is really not that difficult compared to most From Software games. I even took extra time after acquiring all 37 achievements to complete every character remembrance or quest, as well as fight each advanced boss version. Then, instead of working on this video like I should have been, I racked up nearly 130 hours in total because this game is just a lot of fun. For a very experimental idea, Nightreign clicked perfectly for me. The combat is extremely aggressive and fast-paced, going from boss fight to boss fight. Now, it is a roguelite style, so I can't cover it in my usual way of going over it in excruciating detail. Instead, I'm going to cover how I got the achievements in order, and then briefly cover the characters with their remembrances. This is how I spent 65 hours 100%ing Elden Ring Nightreign. Reached the Shrouded Round Table Hold. In order to first reach the main hub area, you must complete a small tutorial. This consists of fighting the Fell Omen. Much easier than he tends to be in base game Elden Ring, although learning the controls left me defeated rather quickly. After a short cutscene, we learn that us and several other Nightfarers have been brought here to fight back against the Nightlord. We must defeat him or our world will be destroyed. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do before we can fight him though. Invoke the power of a relic for the first time. I played the first 30 or so hours of Nightreign with my two little brothers. Not that either of them are very little, being adults, but it lets me flex my power level a little bit. We got our butts handed to us on the first expedition. The general idea is you select a night boss and then get dropped into this map with many ruins, bosses scattered around, and really all kinds of locations with different loot options. You get pushed by a circle, slowly bringing you to a nighttime fight. Spend the day leveling up because you will need it. Defeat the night boss and then the storm resets to do so one more time. After another push, you face a second night boss. Win that, and you take on the expedition's chosen boss, which is somewhat like a mini raid experience as mechanics are in place to challenge all three players at the same time. Safe to say, we were not acclimated to the game yet and got ripped apart by Cerberus's cousin. At the end of each expedition, you earn relics. These can be slotted 3 at a time for powerful buffs. Items to start out with, new character abilities, increasing their skill or power cooldown. It's a grind for the best buffs type situation. Acquired a great number of flask charges. Your flask is used as a healing item. They replenish at any gray site, though you only get a measly 3 when starting any expedition. The goal is to rotate around bosses and reach various church sites. Here you can snatch up another flask, as well as getting one when you beat the second night boss. Reach about 7 and you should be more than ready for the ultimate showdown that awaits you. Defeated Gladius, Beast of Night. This 3-headed dog is the first major night boss you must defeat. He unlocks more bosses and is easily one of the best encounters you're gonna face. Being a 3-headed dog, he'll bite at you, attack with his swinging sword, and spew fire. Typically, this is aimed at one person, giving your other teammates free opportunities to deal damage. However, several times throughout the fight, he's gonna split off into 3 separate dogs, making this an even 3 versus 3. Except, not entirely. When all split up, they're easy to dodge if you aren't greedy for attacks. When all of a sudden, one of your teammates gets marked by a red indicator. This means, hey, all of the boss's entire focus is on you and you alone. Now dodge 3 separate dogs at the same time. At first, you feel really cheated by an unfair attack, but that's really not the case. If you simply run away while focusing on dodging, you can easily stay alive and get both other teammates time to recover if need be. Additionally, this triple dog is extremely weak to holy, which can weaken and stun him if you have enough of it. Not easy to get this stuff when you're new to the game, but as you learn, certain ruins guarantee holy weapon drops. Not to mention the stronger bosses on each map tend to drop what you need. A pretty difficult first boss that I truly learned to love once more acclimated to the combat. The Nightlords appeared. After defeating Tricephalos, the dog boss, you will now have 6 brand new night bosses to take down. Each is their own expedition and will require a different element to damage optimally. Not far from the middle round table area, you can find a small jar dude. He will sell you different relic holders, which are called vessels. Only certain color relics can be equipped based on what your vessel can hold, so it may be beneficial to swap out a relic if you find 2 really strong green relics instead of reds. In many ways, I found this system to be somewhat redundant, as once you find a vessel that works for you, it's nearly impossible to swap without losing a lot of power. Still, it does provide good customization, and if you get more creative than me, I imagine you could have a vessel set for each expedition for all the characters and just swap when needed. Acquire a legendary armament for the first time. As you defeat random bosses around this map, you'll be dropped small orbs that contain buffs for you. You could take things like more health, increased stance break on enemies, all kinds of stuff. Alternatively, these can also drop new weapons, and very rarely you will get dropped a legendary weapon. High damage options that are the best of the best. Most have extremely powerful weapon arts and have strong elemental damage tied to them. Completed the oldest jail. Ever jails are kind of like small prisons containing super strong enemies that are really good ways to level up. These have you face some of the harder bosses in Elden Ring. The one in particular which gave me this achievement was the Godskin Duo, a somewhat rare fight from my experience that can also have a bell-bearing hunter roaming near it. Not a good time, let's just say that much. Manage to defeat the powered up jail and you gain really good rewards on top of lots of runes to level up. Ever jails are actually a pretty big strategy in this game, as some relics come with a buff that grants more damage for each one you complete, leading to most teams rushing as many of these as possible. I am not able to usually fit this buff on my character builds, but wow does it make a huge difference. Found the secret of the crater. In Nightreign, you have a very basic map layout that spawns more often than not. You also have what's called shifting earths that can spawn in the maps before you even drop in. One of these is a massive crater filled with lava. If you see this, scale down the pit in a spiral staircase manner. Many enemies with good rewards await you on these adventures, but what really matters is what's at the very bottom. Manage to get there in time and a magma worm will challenge you. Dispatch him, without dying mind you, as that leads to a frustrating walk all the way back down. Once he's out of the way, an altar allows you to change any weapon into a legendary item. This makes the crater really nice as it guarantees good weapons and high levels on each expedition. The path is really confusing at first, but you can learn many shortcuts for later on if you know where to look. Defeated 10 or more great enemies on one expedition. If you and your fellow Nightfarers have a good enough run, you'll likely defeat many strong bosses in a single go. Traditionally, this is easier to do with the crater present, though if you're quick enough, it can be done on any map. There's also a very rare occurrence which sees you fight a double boss after night 2. These do seem quite rare, but with extra rewards and more fun to have, they're an exciting thing to have happen. Acquired many pieces of high rarity equipment on a single expedition. Right after night 2 and before the final battle, you get a very peaceful section to prepare in. It's here you can buy several extra consumables such as team heals, damage buffs, and physic uses. With leftover runes, you can have plenty of backup options in case things go wrong. Also, I came to really enjoy consumables in Nightreign like this because they felt very useful. Different from base game Elden Ring as they were never needed and felt wasteful, especially if you were dying on repeat while learning a particular boss. Not here, since every little thing you can find serves to give you the win. Attained maximum level. The highest level you can obtain in any given run is 15. This is extremely difficult to reach if you're not all that coordinated with both other teammates. Even then, you could have bad luck and just not make it. Though if you get anyone together with you who's good at the game, it's nearly a sure thing. Each level from 1 to 15 grants you more health, stamina, FP or mana, and damage. Different character stats are going to level up based on their scaling. So Ironeye gets far less health, while someone like Guardian can always have a red bar halfway across the screen. The Duchess became a playable character. You could play as any of the classes in Nightreign at any given time, except for 2 of them who will need to be unlocked. After defeating the 3-headed dog boss, you will get a pocket watch. Hand this over to the hooded woman at round table, and surprise, she becomes accessible as the Duchess class. Really easy to unlock, though I waited to do this as I enjoyed trying out the other classes first. The Revenant became a playable character. After you unlock the Duchess class, you can head to the little jar dude and purchase a besmirched frame. Interact with a ghostly figure staring at some paintings, and you get to fight Revenant. For a mini side battle, she's kinda difficult. Her summons chase you down as 3 rings of light hit you even when they clearly did not. I was quite surprised to find dealing with her nearly impossible. So instead, I swapped to Wylder and beat this first try. As ridiculous as it sounds, I merely used my grapple hook from range and ran away to hide. Yeah, turns out his grapple deals significant damage and keeps things from attacking at the same time. Cheesy, but also highly effective, so I'll take it. After her defeat, the Revenant now becomes available for you to play in the character roster. Completed Augur Raid. Augur is one of the final night bosses you can choose as an expedition. That being said, you can also find this boss as a random occurrence during one of your runs. The water blob will spawn a blue bubble somewhere which teleports you to an arena with him. I was luckily playing Ironeye at the time, making it very easy to hit him. He's pretty weak all things considered and mostly nice for free levels. He'll also give you a unique buff after his defeat where using a health flask also restores FP. Not needed in my experience since magic users have several easy ways to refill FP, mainly from starlight shards. However, it is super convenient early on and everybody loves another buff, am I right? Defeated Noster, Wisdom of Night. The next main boss me and my brothers managed to take down was Sentient Pest. This is a large scorpion creature who's protected by a flying moth. The moth sprays out poison and magic orbs that home in, while the scorpion creature sends out small rows of spikes on the sides of his legs. I'll say this boss is the least enjoyable to fight over and over as his mechanics aren't all that interesting. You have the most ranged teammate focus down the moth, while anyone using melee deals with the ground guy. Both are quite slow for Souls bosses and pose almost no threat at all unless you get mixed in between them by accident. Halfway through we enter phase 2 where the moth rides the other creature. There are several more AoEs thrown around, but man, it's almost easier than phase 1. And I can say that any fire weapons melt this duo fast. Plus, since the two don't move around near as much as other bosses, they're really easy to hit without running stamina dry. I don't mind an easy fight from time to time, honestly, so a free win is something I won't argue with. Defeated Adel, Baron of Night. Adel is a very large half-dragon creature. He looks somewhat similar to the walking dragon legs in Dark Souls 1 near Bed of Chaos. Just add a row of teeth plus wings and here you go, you got this thing. I personally love fighting him with Ironeye. This character's skill grants him a really strong dodge which feels great against such large AoEs. I also found him to be the most efficient way of poisoning a target, and Adel is very weak to poison. So much so that he'll throw up when you inflict him with the stuff, granting a huge window of no struggle basically. Halfway through, the creature begins throwing in large purple lightning while jumping across the sand dunes and trying to grab you every 3 seconds. He is very tough at first, but quite easy to learn since his moveset is limited. Unfortunately, he doesn't feel super co-op oriented as whoever he chooses to attack gets to fight, while everybody else chases forever. Another reason Ironeye feels really good for that extra range. Yep, his moves will tank your frame rate almost every fight, but I had a good time regardless. Found the secret of the mountaintop. Another shifting earth that can spawn on your map is the mountaintop, a massive ice region which sees you climb way up. This is the worst shifting earth possible as it takes far longer to clear than any of the others. I thought the idea was super cool since I love ice areas, and there's all these high level enemies as you move through. Halfway up is a gigantic ice dragon that frosts you infinitely. This is a fake out of sorts as you're not supposed to fight him. Instead, skip him for now and make your way to this formation of blue crystals. You have now been granted new power, decreasing how fast frost builds up on you. Additionally, frostbite in that area grants a boost to your attacks, which is often useless, except against this particular dragon fight. Most people tend to avoid this mountain as, again, it's a lot of work to gain even similar payoff other maps have. However, it could be your best option when facing one particular Nightlord who happens to also be an ice dragon. Another tool in the toolbox for you, so to speak. Defeated Libra, Creature of Night. Meet the Frenzy boss. By far the most difficult boss in Nightreign. That being said, I would argue he's the most fun and creative boss included once you understand his gimmicks. Basically, this guy is a demon merchant who can spawn on your map from time to time. Accept his offer and you lose something while gaining certain buffs. You can sacrifice a level for strong weapons, things like that. This also happens right before you fight him near the expedition's end. The correct decision is to ignore all of his offers and attack until he turns into his boss form. If you want to make the fight way harder, anyone can accept a deal, making the player far stronger, but also the boss goes berserk. Never, ever choose this. It gets out of hand fast. So once the fight begins, what makes him so interesting? Well, he feels very much like a raid boss. Multiple types of magic will spawn in to deal damage and affect you with Frenzy, which is a status that deals damage to you and freezes movement for several seconds once it builds up. Manage to get one of the very very few Frenzy weapons that players can obtain and you instantly win. Frenzy nullifies this boss and will deal crazy amounts of damage. Fail to find Frenzy and he can be a struggle. There's also a point where Libra will shield himself and meditate. You could see sigils that break on contact. Don't break these and he'll spawn in so much magic you will be overwhelmed in seconds. Do break them and he goes berserk with melee that never seems to end. Pick your poison, I guess. Or what I noticed was if anyone breaks the meditation bubble using an ultimate like Ironeye's big bow, Raider's rock pillar, or even Raider's skill can do it. This seems to stop the boss from buffing either of his optional ways, letting you continue on with easy moves. But my goodness, did we lose to this man time and time again until he clicked. The night aspect appeared. After defeating enough of the major bosses, or in other words, after completing enough successful expeditions, you will unlock the game's final boss. Time to take down the night, once and for all, freeing everyone from this endless war. Completed Fell Omen Raid. Another random occurrence that can show up during the day is a Fell Omen Raid. Morgott, Malekith, or is it Mordecai? One of the main bosses from Elden Ring invades you anywhere on the map. It can happen while fighting other bosses, which gets crazy. Or he can simply show up while you're moving from place to place. He's the boss you likely lose to during your tutorial. I was surprised to find that they made him far easier than he was in base Elden Ring. With your faster movement, simply running away works to dodge moves. They changed his throwing knives, which doesn't seem too big of a deal, and overall he's something you love to see. Huge levels coming in after a solid fight. One new attack that will throw you off though is this Blood Slash. He picks a target on your team indicated by the red icon. After slashing, blood flames will spawn on the indicated player no matter where they are. The trick is, it's a delayed dodge, but I bet you could have guessed that knowing this genre. It helps to be really high level when he invades you, though that's more poor timing on his part than anything else. Defeated Holster the Nightlord. The final boss of Nightreign is one of the best boss fights of all time. It has spectacle. It has a great moveset. It has a more humanoid figure, which are always the best FromSoft encounters. You start by wiping the floor with him. A very dark night theme going on here, but why the heck is he so weak? Holy is his weakness. As I can tell you from experience, the stuff trashes him. Duchess or Revenant are by far the best characters to use, since the two holy daggers you can find activate a ranged projectile that deal really unfair damage. I love these things. Oh, he's got a second phase. Now it all makes sense. This is where things get really good. Remember Gale from Dark Souls 3? The vibe is the same, and even the way in which he attacks feels similar. Nothing too obviously there to roll catch you. Instead, more of what you see is what you need to avoid. But then he hovers up into the air and cuts a slice into the fabric of reality, slamming down onto the ground, emanating a massive shockwave. This is just insane, man. AoEs are exploding all over the place. You're dodging multiple sword strikes. I mean, Raider go bonk, so this wasn't terribly difficult for my first attempt. But regardless, I was completely blown away by this experience. He too can be a little difficult to hit if the aggro is pulling towards one person. I often found him to switch periodically though, so it feels very fluid for each player. Reached the ending. After defeating the final boss, we see a cutscene of some large being moving away from the Erd tree. I imagine symbolizing the night is leaving. Though, to be honest, this is from software we're talking about. The more you think you know, the less you actually know. You know? Defeated Fulgor, Champion of the Night. The Centaur boss is when I finally decided that Nightreign has some of the best boss design I've seen in a long time. You fight a literal centaur who's weak to lightning. Yes, you still need to dodge anything thrown at you, but stunning and staggering him out of certain animations will work wonders. This prevents him from littering the ground with holy explosions, quite difficult to dodge. Overall, his weapon is easy to dodge, but without staggers you immediately spiral towards death, making Raider an S-tier character here as he can just use his skill to pop the creature anytime he likes. For phase 2, you need to avoid these black tendrils. Very easy to do if he's on you, as you just get in close. However, a little annoying for the other teammates as it's more random. My only complaint is with this giant AoE. He sprints across the arena and summons a mass of holy light to damage an area. You can run out of it if he's not on you, but it's tricky, and no matter how much I try, the dodge timing feels impossible to get down. To this day, I refuse to look it up, up just because I know I can get it, but there is seemingly no indication of when it will explode. Luckily, he only does this once or twice if you're aggressive enough. Defeated 3 Nightlords in a row. This achievement requires you to defeat 3 separate Nightlords in a row without being defeated at all in between. I'll say this one is difficult with randoms, as you just don't know who you're gonna get or how long they've been playing the game. Some of the games I played were joined up with a good old YouTube pal of mine, Chaos Gaming. He already had significant hours in the game, and I've played Elden Ring arguably too much, meaning that when we joined up, nothing could stop us. I really don't think we ever lost a single run together. We had some very fun games, I have to admit. Completed Equilibrious Beast Raid. A very troublesome encounter you can have spawn on you is the Equilibrious Beast Raid. The demon merchant can show up and curse you to have much less than max HP. I mean, literally, he takes away a large chunk of your health permanently. At first, we decided to hit him, starting a fight. Nope, do not do that. This is a trick, as you will lose every single time. Imagine you're fighting one of the final Nightlord bosses, but at only around level 5. You could do it, but all 3 of you need to play perfectly. No, instead, you could just have a player run off and pay him some runes. I've seen anywhere from about 15,000 to 31,000. As long as you pay him, the raid is completed. You don't have to fight, and he offers you a free buff afterwards. Although, is it really free after paying thousands of runes? Found the secret of the Rotted Woods. Back on topic of shifting earths, you can have one called the Rotted Woods. In the bottom right section of your map, a large wooded area will be filled with scarlet rot. Enter this area whatsoever and you will build up rot that damages you over time. This seems to be a highly nerfed version compared to how it affected you in Elden Ring, but you still die over time, which isn't great. Throughout the forest, you can find plants that cure this affliction, and if you're fast enough at killing bosses, you could simply beat every major boss. Refill flasks at the grave sites they spawn and keep moving, because that's the gimmick. The place is full of death in the air, but it has multiple high-value targets, which makes it my favorite shifting earth. Fighting bosses is what I'm here for, man, so bring it on. Me and my brothers completed this several times, kind of wondering why there was a mark on your map in this area as well. If you go there to the small castle, it will reveal a special location in the Rotted Woods. This is a large glowing flower that grants you power. Scarlet Rot no longer affects you. You gain much higher max HP, and after taking damage, you gain the Bloodborne effect, allowing damage dealt to heal you after taking a hit. This is the best buff possible in my opinion, and even better, there seems to be only 3 locations it spawns. So learn where those are, and you don't need to clear the small castle at all. Now you get loads of bosses to fight and extra HP. Dude, the Rotted Woods is amazing. I cannot praise it enough. Defeated Maris Fathom of Night. Augur is likely a boss you will lose to on your first run. We were just playing melee characters and at the end found out he's a flying boss. Oh. Well, that sucks. The best bet is to have all 3 of you play Ironeye so you can bow and arrow to your heart's content. I did look up some strategies for this script in particular, as it seems melee characters can actually hurt the boss. You want to instead attack the tentacle enemies he places down. These will die and then send out orbs to damage the main boss. I really recommend just selecting Ironeye, as then you can focus on the boss and his attacks. The only tricky mechanic is a large glowing egg he can poop out, to put it bluntly. If this touches the ground, you all die, so make sure those get destroyed. He can also curl up into a ball, causing sleep buildup, which if I remember correctly also deals tons of damage while you're asleep, plus leaves you vulnerable. Save your ultimates, as each can stun the boss out of this move. Overall, this is probably the lamest boss in the game. He's so easy that I never want to replay him since he barely even attacks you, though I can admit it's nice to have a boss you don't really have to try so hard on. Also, again, it gives you the excuse to triple Ironeye, and that is an absolute blast. Changed garb via dresser for the first time. Each run in Nightreign rewards you with the in-game currency. This is spent on relics for powerful buffs, or at the dresser unlocking extra outfits. Each character has a really cool design you may have seen from older Souls games. My favorite options are as follows: Lion Knight for Wylder, Solaire for Guardian, Sellsword or Drang Armor for Ironeye, Dawn for Duchess because of the hat, Sigmire of Katarina for Raider, Dragon School for Revenant since it's the only one she gets to wear shoes in, Remembrance for Recluse as it is a beautiful look, and for Executor I really don't like any of these options much, but Darkness and Thorns feel the most unique in my opinion. Probably the most difficult shifting earth to complete correctly is basically Nocron, very similar to the underground Starry City in Elden Ring. This version is just as messy. Half the battle is getting through the weird broken structures and maze-like streets. Some randoms will instantly quit if they see this on the map, as it requires very quick battles to maneuver through. You want to almost instantly head there on day 2, fighting maybe 1 or 2 things to be at least level 10. Black Knife assassins, mimic trolls, and even a Revenant can be found depending on your path. I always take left as it's the fastest, though right might have more rewards. Both paths converge in the back where you fight Estelle. Yeah, she's as annoying as she always was, though faster speed finally lets us avoid her purple ground AoE she often spams. Kind of a difficult fight just because you're really on the clock, but manage to beat the boss and you open a chest filled with power. On this run, you get 1 free revive after death and get stronger after doing so. Again, a nice reward. And that's the final shifting earth, which all of them can be summoned anytime before an expedition by you if you have the resources. I have found a contraption in this city that lets you copy a weapon. Most often I don't have time to get to this, and very rarely do I have something I want to copy, even if it is just for the buff. But you get the idea. There's several secrets to plunder if you can manage to navigate through. One achievement I put off for a long time was defeated every single Nightlord. This would require me to fight the Ice Dragon, which for some reason I just didn't do. I have about 16 hours of gameplay here where I just had a good time, doing some of the remembrances and fighting whoever I felt like. Well, eventually one of my brothers hopped on again and we decided to check out this ice boss, and we were surprised to find him to be extremely easy. To be honest, I have well over 100 hours in this game and I've only ever fought him twice. He feels like if Seath from Dark Souls 1 was an actual dragon boss, and he used a lot more frost. He sprays frost everywhere as you smack his toes with rivers of blood. To be honest, his design is one of the coolest dragons I've ever seen. Long neck, large wings, and ice dragons are the best dragons. I mean, that's just a fact. It seems using fire, though, his major weakness, completely nullifies most mechanics present. Again, I have no problem with easy bosses. This is just one I won't tend to fight very often. He is the last of the Nightlords, by the way, giving us plenty of options to choose from if you ask me. Acquired a great many vessels. This achievement I did not happen to record as it randomly popped up after I was about to hop off for the night. Purchase all relics sold by the little jar dude at Round Table and you get obtained vessels. Completed Sentient Pest Raid. I played Nightreign for probably 55 hours looking for one random encounter. This is the Sentient Pest boss if it were only the moth. You will get all these black swarms of locusts to start chasing you. If they manage to sit there long enough, your levels will be taken and absorbed by the locusts. Yeah, they steal your levels, which is nuts the first time it happens. Chase down the clouds of bugs as they run away, leading you to the moth, who dies in seconds because she's for some reason insanely weak. You get all your levels back and some extra runes. Why it took longer to get this raid than any other for me, I have no idea. The buff you gain is attacks grant a large number of runes on rare occasions. Not sure if this is good or not, as it's hard to even see happening, and we got it too late in the expedition to tell. Probably at least helpful, I would have to imagine. Defeated the Nightlord with all characters. Something important to do is fight any night boss with every class in Nightreign. I, up until this point, had still not even tried Recluse even a single time. She's the pure magic caster with S scaling in faith and intelligence. Both of my brothers pretty much hated how she worked immediately, which didn't really win me over. So since I like the melee combat and bow combat a lot, I just stayed towards those classes instead. Turns out she's the most powerful character with the most lenient dodge. But more on that here soon. After finally giving her a shot, I managed to beat a Nightlord boss at least once with every class, earning me all achievements in what has now become one of my favorite games ever made. Seriously, I got addicted to Nightreign for an entire month doing almost nothing else. That is 100% of Nightreign according to Steam, but there are still several important features to check out after, which is crazy. One of those features is Everdark Sovereigns. These are upgraded versions of the night bosses that rotate weekly. I fought all the ones currently existing. Several are still planned to be released in the future, but obviously I haven't tried those. These will have you start in each boss's second phase, and they add a new, far more challenging phase halfway through. The Centaur is one of the strongest, fast. He gains a double-sided light twin blade that swings rapidly in front of you. He also flies now, letting him shoot down a nuke that blows up everything in sight. His rain of arrows was particularly troublesome as well. Super challenging, though I didn't think it felt impossible or anything. Adele has my favorite buffed boss version, as again, I really got good at fighting him with Ironeye. This time, he'll summon a large tornado around him. Run away, as this damages you when you get caught inside. Then, take a special jump pad up and back inside, as the outer part will begin to hurt you after. From this point on, he mostly uses grab attacks. These are heavily delayed. Once you get used to him, it's still really challenging, I admit, though when he clicked for me, he really clicked. The other boss is Sentient Pest, who becomes really quite annoying. There are 2 mods instead of just 1, adding up to 3 bosses instead of 2. Happen to get one of the very few legendary fire weapons, and this is no trouble at all. What I don't like is the challenge they added is just more gigantic AoEs. Probably the least interesting way to make a boss difficult, as the dodge timings are harder to find, and you often see double hitboxes that catch you no matter what. With co-op being a thing, we found the boss more than manageable. Not one I want to take on again though, and that's just personal preference. Well, I'm heading back into this part of my script as a new, more elite version of Augur just dropped at the time I'm recording this. I absolutely hate everything this boss stands for. Now, you kill her very quickly, and then she'll drop a weapon for each player that's essentially the Storm Ruler. You will summon a large wave to hit the boss anywhere. Awesome idea, that's very fun actually. And it lets all the melee classes actually fight an air boss, so that's cool. Unfortunately, what it also does is nullify all the classes in your entire run. None of your ultimates will ever hit the boss. None of your skills can work correctly, as they also won't hit. Support is the only thing helpful, and that doesn't make it go by faster. You're avoiding homing explosions and giant waves, which again are not good for character balance. The only class really good at avoiding giant waves is Wylder with his grapple. I loved the idea as soon as I started charging up magic power and slinging it, but this is literally a bullet hell that is super slow. You can't damage Augur quickly in any way, as every charge takes 5 to 7 seconds, I think. Man, I gotta be honest, I love this game for everything it is, but this was a terrible boss addition. All the Everdark bosses are only available to people who really played the game. You have to have most bosses beaten to even try these. This means no super newbie players are in the pool, offering mostly wins. Like I may have said already, if you have a good team who can coordinate or all 3 play well separately, every expedition will be a win. And for our last topic of today's video, yes, I know it's very long already, we have the classes. I avoided talking about them for the most part as I wanted to rank them while I explain each. Also, I completed all remembrances. That will come up here as well. A point I want to make is that several reviewers I watched before purchasing this game completely lied in their videos. They said there isn't much to do after playing a few expeditions, when in reality, every single class has multiple quest steps that unlock powerful relics which further increase the fun you can have afterwards. These explain lore about the knight and what each character's goal is while they're in this infinite war. So let's dive into these a bit, and again, the order here can serve as a bit of a ranking of which characters I like the most from best to worst. Wylder, my favorite character, is a jack of all trades for the melee side. He's given a short-range grapple hook of sorts that can fling you towards enemies or fling enemies towards you if they're smaller. Your ultimate explodes a charged fire blast, which stuns bosses out of actions and deals high damage. His main weapon type is greatswords, which are the best weapon type in the game, containing multiple powerhouses and being very consistent overall. His story is that he wants to save the Duchess. When you defeat the final boss, that hub area will disappear forever, meaning she will also disappear forever. We set out on a quest to collect a Mimic tier item. After defeating the final boss, Wylder consumes that tier, becoming a Nightlord himself. It is theorized that he then leaves so his fellow Nightfarers won't need to fight, as Duchess will then remain in existence. This is very heartwarming and a great way to show Wylder's willingness to sacrifice himself for others. The sheer movement and fun emanating from this character is peak gaming. You can gain 2 grapples and add an extra move that imbues your sword with fire after a grapple. Wylder gets aggressive and lets you use most of the strength weapons if you feel like shaking things up. Ironeye is the bow class, and finally, bows are really fun in a FromSoft game. You have unlimited arrows and can fire very quickly. That's really all it needed this entire time. Yes, I know that wouldn't work in the Souls games, but I'm trying to make a point here. He is very good at applying status effects and surviving as you can fight from a distance. Now, his damage is on the lower side, but because you can attack so far away, bosses that move great distances don't waste your stamina running after them. His skill is the best feature as it grants huge amounts of iframes for easy dodges. It will also apply a mark to the enemy and deal decent damage. After enough damage is then dealt to the enemy marked, it will pop and burst down the enemy's HP. Ironeye instantly becomes the best DPS character if your team can break this mark quickly. I found a relic granting me 2 skills, which is a game changer for this. His ult is not very complicated. You charge up a long-range bow shot that deals great damage and stuns. This is highly beneficial for knocking bosses out of certain moves and fun when you connect on groups. In my opinion, he has the worst story, but again, that's kind of personal. You find an evil ranger who explains that you and him are of the same people, those who live in death, who cannot be killed by normal means. You find the holy item that can actually kill him, and he explains this to you. Now you go defeat the final boss, and instead of ending the night so everyone can go home, Ironeye destroys the way out, locking everyone in an endless war forever. People online seem to think this is cool because he's based, man. He wants to fight forever and ever. He just loves fighting, so this is fun for him. Meanwhile, Wylder is depressed due to all this fighting, and I can't imagine the other Nightfarers want to do this forever either, thus making Ironeye a villain. He chooses to lock his fellow companions in a war because he's afraid of dying after being sent home. He makes a morally selfish choice while his friends try and save each other at every turn. Is it better to save yourself and doom your friends, or is it better to doom yourself and save your friends? I guess the decision, ultimately, is up to you. Revenant is the summoner/faith class. You're going to use seals to cast incantations. These are extremely powerful and arguably the most fun magic options. Your summons are a small swordsman, large pumpkin-head brute, or enormous skeleton. The brute is your best option, though it's not good to use when melee players are attacking smaller targets. They literally cannot see what's happening. The swordsman is really nice, but dies quickly, and the skeleton is borderline useless until you reach larger bosses, since he doesn't move, or she technically is the right terminology for her. The ultimate seems bad at first, as it just makes you and allies invincible, but then you take damage and get all confused. No, what it really does is make sure no ally can die for several seconds. You can be hit, but you will not go down. This also seems to activate your summon's power, so to speak, as the skeleton usually lasers across everything when you use it. It's strong and hard to miss on big targets. Revenant is my favorite way to play magic, as it's easy to cast when summons take enemy attention off of you. If you struggle to get mana back, that's fair, but you just need a relic that increases mana after holding at least 3+ seals in your inventory. Also, you could open up at least one magic tower on the map where you can collect a ton of starlight shards. Once correctly set up, she instant revives teammates with an explosion on her ult and never runs out of mana. Her story is a bit more tragic, as you enter a mansion in her dreams. It's here that you battle the knight, slowly leading up to the reveal. You are not in fact a small girl. The knight infected some young girl's father. He would then slaughter the whole family, including that girl, in front of a doll. This doll took up life and swore to destroy the knight. She even uses the spirits of the family to do so. Kinda dark. Kinda Bloodborne-esque. Kind of a cool idea to introduce a doll as your main character. She has one single goal: destroy the knight and have her revenge. I can get behind that for sure. Duchess is the jack of all trades for magic users. She can use lighter weapons, faith incantations, and intelligence spells. If you don't like the gimmick of Recluse or the sorcerer class, Duchess will be your best friend. She's 100% based around support, heavily reliant on teammates playing their role. Your skill activates what is called a clone attack. This copies any damage an enemy receives in the last 3 or so seconds. So say Wylder activates his fire explosion. Boom, you copy really quickly, and now that's doubled. This isn't dealt at max power for the second attack, though you get the idea. You want to spam this as much as possible, while also using it as optimally as possible. Hit the skill when big numbers are applied, and bosses die faster than any other way in the game. She is huge for DPS when played correctly. Her ultimate is one of the lamest of the bunch. You turn yourself and those near you invisible. That's it. This is for support, so it's still useful, as revives, heals, and any rebuffing can be done as bosses stand there looking into the abyss. Problem is, you never are quite sure when it should be used. Am I holding onto my power too long and not using it? Or am I using it at all the wrong moments so we don't have invisibility when we need it? Actual combat is not benefited much by this in my experience, as it's very situational. Mana is a bit tougher to manage on her, though again, Starlight Shards drop in bulk if you can get 1 or 2 towers unlocked. Duchess, as we find out, is the sister of Wylder. They are siblings separated long ago who somehow both ended up here. It's mentioned that Wylder will not survive his journey home after the night ends. From what I gathered, he's deeply depressed and just won't have the heart to keep going. Duchess will imbue a small pin with light from a site of grace and place it on Wylder. She then heads out to defeat the Nightlord, knowing she will cease to exist with the Round Table. Put both stories together and both Wylder and Duchess are trying to save the life of their sibling, just in different ways. Another heartwarming story, getting you to really feel for the characters. Guardian is a big, fat wall, and he cannot be broken. Birdman is easily the worst starting class in the game. His effectiveness relies 100% on abilities you gain from slotted relics. Once you have those, he is a really strong support player for the team with crazy defense. The idea is you rely on shields. After blocking, press dodge again in a direction to move into a super block or guard position. Here, your blocks will consume very little stamina, allowing you to block even nukes from bosses without losing balance. His whirlwind ability is complete trash, does nothing, unless you add on a relic to increase how long it lasts. Unfortunately, this also knocks them around, which is difficult to hit the enemy with poke-based weapons. Regardless, the crowd control is top-notch. His ultimate is where all the fun comes in. You fly way up into the air, then crash down hard onto the ground. Damage is there, but not exactly exceptional. Instead, you want relic buffs that increase its duration and add on a heal effect. Hold this after the slam to fully heal yourself and allies while you become immune. This smash also fully revives down teammates, even those at 3 bars. Guardian can absolutely clutch a run with extra healing for the team and some of the most consistent revives. He also is the best option to have boss aggro if you can manage it. While blocking, your team can be completely safe and focus on pure DPS. Upgrading or finding a better shield is priority 1, while stamina is priority 2. Stamina might as well be your health bar due to how blocking works. Also, he has the highest HP pool of any class, making him very easy to play. Defense-based, but easy to get used to. Birdman's story is simple, to say the least. We learned that Recluse, or the Witch, was one of the ones responsible for inflicting a curse on your people some time ago. I believe this curse wiped out a lot of his people and also prevents them from flying. You can choose to punish her or forgive her, which from what I heard doesn't make a difference. I chose to forgive, which has her quite grateful. Personally, I think this quest should have had more to it, albeit the team building vibe is there at least. Executor has you playing Sekiro in Elden Ring, which, no, I haven't played. The parry class, or deflect class, I should say. Some people get really upset if you mix up the two, though effectively they behave in a similar fashion. Executor will use katanas, and likely only katanas. Most of his power comes from rivers of blood, as you will try and find it on every single expedition, no matter what. It's that strong, and his stats lean towards it heavily. He can be very good for status buildup, as katanas naturally have bleed. Add on poison or frost, or both, and you take down enemies quickly. His skill is infinite use, though it deals no damage on its own. You will pull out a special sword that deflects attacks when you block. The trick here is not to block, however, as you want to pull it out for the deflect instead. For some reason, this works way better, as you will hardly ever miss this way. Deflect enough, and you can hold an attack that dashes past the enemy. Deflecting is the biggest flaw and bonus of Executor. You don't want to use this on everything, as it's slow and the sword's damage is not good. On the other hand, it will stun lock easy parry enemies like Crucible Knights, turning them into a joke. On night bosses, you avoid deflecting at all times until you see a move that can't easily be dodged. Pull out the deflect just before contact, and it adds a huge level of survivability. I slept on this skill for many runs until I learned how lenient the deflect actually is. Now his ultimate is one of the most fun, turning you into a large monster. You could charge attack, spam claws, or roar. I found that adding a relic in, which heals you on roar, was the best option by far. Now just do that over and over as it revives really quickly, stuns any lower enemy in front of you, and deals damage while you survive infinitely. Just be sure you don't activate this ult inside of lava or any other AoEs, because you will die instantly. As for his story, Executor seemingly has nothing to do with anything in this game. He's transported to a view of the Erd tree where you duel a version of yourself. One of the most fun moments in the game for me, though it's comically easy after likely getting roasted in 1 second. This view here is the base game of Elden Ring, being a part of Mount Gelmir and looking over the golden area. Apparently, this Crucible Knight, who is us, failed some mission of his and commits seppuku to atone for this. No clue how he's alive after that, and no clue how this pertains to Nightreign. All I know is the view was awesome and the duel was fun. Recluse is the most interactive magic ever created in a From Software title. This is the most complex character and the one with the least amount of HP. She also requires a separate playstyle in the game, which will need to be learned or she basically sucks. So Recluse has S scaling in both Int and Faith. You will use any and all magic items to great effect. Not hard to learn which stuff is the best, as power balance among magic is obviously non-existent to an extent. Your skill is the entire point of this class. After dealing magic damage on a target, you can hit the skill button to absorb the attack's essence, so to speak. This restores substantial mana, or FP as it's called, and stores the element type in your skill. Do this 3 times and it will be full. On a 4th use, you will release some sort of magic attack. Now here's the problem. Go to the wiki and read a list of 20 possible combinations. Different element types used with other element types create separate effects. And there's some really cool stuff you can do, like reduce boss HP, spray out flames, set down a small magic explosion, turn into an ice cube, and freeze anything in the area. Sounds awesome, if, and only if, you exclusively play this character. Trying her out here and there, it's impossible to know what combos do what, and instead you'll merely throw out whatever happens to get absorbed into the skill. On the one hand, this is the most interactive magic has ever been in a Souls-style game. Usually it's either blue orb thing go, or some other colored orb thing go. Now you can be a rune mage of sorts with actual combos. Personally, this feels like too much work for a video game, so I just don't want to learn everything possible. Luckily, you really can just use whatever you have to keep gaining FP back, then rely solely on your spells. Never seemed to hurt my damage at all. Her ult applies a brand to nearby enemies. Hit these enemies and you regain health and FP. I really hate the upgrade that deals blood loss when you activate this, as it gets me killed every time. Though I think it's required for your ult to revive, and it does deal some decent damage. And this works for all allies, so you can have free healing for the team if they're aggressive. Recluse is extremely bad early on, as she has no HP or FP to work with and really needs to unlock towers, which every other class can avoid entirely, at least they can, if need be. She needs these unlocked to get better spells and activate relic buffs, though I will say a good Recluse can solo every boss even in 3-man teams. She's OP in terms of damage with a lenient dodge, thankfully. Though if I die when using my stupid skill one more time, I'm gonna lose it. Enough with the 5-second cast times already, this is really dumb. For her story, you get a bit more complex. Some time ago, Recluse gave birth to a dark entity. Not a literal birth, but more of she fused some power into something, creating a hungry entity. She gave it to her sister to take care of, and the thing ate her sister. Or at least it killed her, but I like my way better. You speak to a revived version of your sister, telling you how your decisions were wrong and you have doomed them all. After defeating the Nightlord, you can find a small dark baby. Comfort it, and in theory, this is another way to end the night. Get rid of the entity causing problems by showing it motherly love he should have had to begin with. A mother reuniting with her lost child, and a sister saying goodbye to her sibling one last time. I was more than engaged, and it helps that Recluse has a beautiful figure, to say the least. For our last class, and my least favorite, we have Raider, the big guy who wields big weapons. I personally do not like playing this slowly. After jump attacks and normal swings, it takes far too long to dodge in this combat. I always get hit when I shouldn't have, and stamina drains faster than you can believe. That being said, no class is bad in this game, and a good Raider can stun lock every boss forever. Your passive is based around being a tank. Damage received is less effective at poise breaking you. It builds up a buff that will will then appear like a gray or silver aura around your character. This occurs after you take enough damage and will buff the effectiveness of your skill. The skill is a punch which makes you nearly invincible. Use it as an enemy hits you to survive every time and knock them back. If you have the buffed aura active, this charges for longer and sends out a huge shockwave. Using this, Raider can take on the hardest bosses in the game and stop them from moving at any time. Yes, even the Nightlords are affected by this, making Raider extremely effective at minimizing boss movement and even how often they attack. You live and die by this skill, so use it like a shield. Now, unfortunately, I have nothing good to say about his ultimate, and that's my big problem with him. Ironically, this power is what finally made me reach into the old wallet and buy this game, but I was sorely disappointed. Raider smashes a spike into the ground, creating a rock totem. It revives teammates near the radius and lifts you up over the battlefield. Enemies do take considerable damage and have huge stuns from it. Now, for the downsides. Who in their right mind designed this stupid thing? Now you have a gigantic rock on top of the boss that prevents you from seeing its attacks. Sometimes the boss gets stuck in it entirely, making him immune while it can still harm you. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I get on top as the archer and now damage can't get to me? Wrong. Most bosses will simply attack straight through it like it's not even there, or just knock you off entirely. There is no possible way to use this ultimate without harming the team. It is always in the way, creates a buggy feel to the game, and is extremely bad when used with Ironeye or the magic classes. Good luck fighting on your own, because other classes now can't help you. In my opinion, it's the most poorly designed aspect of this game, even though I like the idea. My brothers yelled at me every single time I used this, and not once have I ever had a Raider teammate use it to where it wasn't an issue. Outside of that, Raider uses massive weapons to destroy enemy posture. The less the boss moves, the less you can take damage. And if you build into critical attacks, those riposts will look really nice. As for his story, you can think of Raider as a pirate. He speaks of losing his friend at the sea at some point in relation to, I think, Duchess's quest. His actual goal is to win a gladiator tournament. Somehow he's been enrolled in this competition to the death. Of course, we win all 3 encounters, becoming the ultimate gladiator and victor. The fights are each really fun, and since combat is why I play games like this, his Remembrance was easily one of my favorites. So, there you have my overly in-depth, likely, 100% of Elden Ring Nightreign. I was on the fence about this game even a month after its release. New games are all terrible on initial release, so I waited till performance was good and some credible reviews came out. Even people who liked this game did not review it honestly, in my opinion, as I would highly recommend it to almost anybody. The combat is fast-paced and extremely addicting. Being able to select several different bosses and select several different classes gives you replayability that every other roguelite struggles to match. Yes, it's repetitive, but the core combat of Elden Ring is incredible, and each run feels unique enough based on which bosses spawn, what shifting earth you have, what kinds of weapons drop, and which relics you have on. I deeply love this game and have enjoyed every second of it. If I had to have 2 complaints, it would be about the relic system and the buffs. All items in the game have passive buffs that add to your character when you pick them up. Half of these are really valuable, while the other half are terrible. So many of them feel like a complete waste of time when it's hard to see anyone wanting them no matter what class they have on. And the relic system is a huge blunder. I have over 120 hours and not one single relic has exactly what I want on it. Oftentimes you get stuff like start with gravity stones. Brother, nobody's ever equipping that. Just delete it from the pool. RNG on these relic drops are really poor for how long each run takes to complete. Not to mention some buffs don't even work with each other. I had one that gave me extra HP when equipped with 3 great shields. The exact same relic gave me extra health when I had 3+ medium shields equipped. Okay, awesome. Now I have to run around with only 6 shields and no other weapon. What a great way to play. Stuff like this shouldn't even be possible, and it mucks up the relic drops heavily. You end up with hundreds of relics not even the most simple person would ever think to use. Yes, you can delete them, but that's not the point. It is probably the biggest flaw in this game. Not to mention, I never switch around my relics anymore because I know what I need for my characters. Not really sure what the fix is, but build diversity, so to speak, heavily stagnates after you do all remembrances and maybe a few runs after. Overall, the game has great bosses and excellent co-op that does not require friends, which is a huge bonus. I played with many randoms. Occasionally you do get a stinker, but that makes a successful run feel all the better. Finally, FromSoft wised up and figured out how co-op properly works, and they shamed consumed so many other games as they usually do. There you have my 100% of Elden Ring Nightreign. I love this game and more than got enough out of it. If you did enjoy, feel free to like and subscribe down below to help me out. I doubt many who aren't subscribed made it this far, but hey, you can tell me how I'm wrong down in the comments if you so desire. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.